What's up YouTube community, thanks a lot for tuning in for today's video lesson. This time we take an in-depth look at the very interesting acoustic scale, also known as Lydian dominant, Lydian flat 7 or overtone scale. It has a very unique and special character, and if you're searching for a new sound or scale that will spice up your songwriting or licks, this might be the one to go for. To get started, we will take a look at one basic scale pattern in one position, starting from the root note C on the 8th fret of the low E string. Now that we checked out the scale in one position, we can analyze it together. Make sure to stick around for the demonstration of the sound in the end, so you can decide if you want to use it in the future. But first you have to study some music theory so you can apply it correctly. The first thing that obviously stands out is the raised 4th scale degree, and that's exactly the reason why some of the names for the scale have the word Lydian in it. If you're not familiar with the modes yet, those are 7 heptatonic scales very closely related to the natural major and minor scale. In fact, those two scales are modes already. The natural major scale is called Ionian and the natural minor scale is referred to as Aeolian. The rest of the modes in major are Lydian and Mixolydian, and the rest of the modes in minor are Dorian, Phrygian and Locrian. For most of those scales we just have to change one note from the natural major or minor scale, with the exception of Locrian, which is also the least popular mode. I recently made a super short lesson video about all the modes if you want to check it out in detail and see the differences. For Lydian we just have to raise the 4th scale degree of the natural major scale and everything else remains the same. So if I would play the C major scale up here, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. To get Lydian, I just have to raise the 4th note, the 4th scale degree. So F would become F sharp. C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. So really basic, the difference between major and Lydian would be major, Lydian. The whole color and sound of Lydian is determined by just that one note, and it sounds much more interesting than Ionian because it's quite a dissonant note for a major mode. That is the typical Lydian interval. And that is exactly the reason why this is one of my absolute favorite major modes, with the exception of more exotic sounds. So when we get back to the acoustic scale right now, we also see that another note is different from the natural major scale. We are playing B flat instead of B. And that exact note would be characteristic for the sound of C Mixolydian. So once again, when we compare C major to C Mixolydian, we only have to alter one note. We have to lower the 7th scale degree. So B would become B flat. Once again, the C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C Mixolydian, C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, up to C again. Again, just one note is altered from the major scale, but that one makes all the difference. By lowering the 7th scale degree, we end up with a dominant 7th chord on the tonic. Instead of, we have, because there is a minor 7th now instead of a major 7th. If you play the major 7th of the natural major or Ionian scale over the minor 7th of a dominant 7th chord in the tonic function, it will sound pretty terrible because that major 7th you're playing will clash with the minor 7th of the chord, and that sounds pretty terrible. Knowing about such small music theory details will spare you a lot of trouble when you're improvising, because it can be quite frustrating when it sometimes sounds right, when you would not play that 7th scale degree for example, and sometimes sounds completely wrong when you would accent that exact 7th scale degree for example and it's not lowered. Without this kind of knowledge you won't really know what you're doing wrong and why it sounds good sometimes and terrible with other phrases. We can look deeper into that if you want to. Just leave a comment if you have any questions about that theory stuff or if it's causing any trouble for you. I'm here to help with that. So basically we can see the acoustic scale as a mix of Lydian and Mixolydian, since it features both of these characteristic intervals that make the sound of these scales. Another way we could look at this scale is by analyzing the tetrachords. The first one consists of the notes C, D, E and F sharp, making it Lydian as we already know, 3 whole steps. But the second tetrachord is G, A, B flat and C, so its attributes fit the minor scale, whole step, half step, whole step. Before we talk about the rest of the theory information I would like to teach you today, I want to show you the sound of this scale in a more practical way. I recorded a Jamtrack with riffs written in the C acoustic scale and recorded an improvised take over it while I was studying the sound and possibilities of the scale. So while I was doing my research work, so to say. The track is available for all patrons over at patreon.com/Bernd. There you can download it and also have access to a pretty massive archive with tabs, guitar profiles, workout sheets and lots of lessons. As you can hear, this scale and sound has a lot of melodic potential and sounds really unique and exotic, at least in my opinion. Combining the raised 4th and the lowered 7th scale degree creates some nice dissonance that still has a floating and mystic vibe to it, especially when we compare it to more dissonant and kind of chaotic sounds like Locrian, for example. The last bit of music theory info that I want you to know today is its relation to other scales. Often we can trace back exotic scales to other sounds we already know about, and that is also the case for the acoustic scale or Lydian dominant or Lydian flat 7 scale or overtone scale. It has a lot of names. To show you this connection real quick, that means that the acoustic scale, for example, starting on D, consists of the notes D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B and C. And so it contains the familiar sharpened F and G of A melodic minor. So those two scales are connected. But that's enough theory madness for one day. I hope that you can use this sound for your own music and that this video was helpful. I can absolutely recommend digging a little bit deeper with this scale. There are a lot of great melodies and riffs hidden in there. At the end, please make sure to subscribe to get notified for more free guitar lessons. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, a comment if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next one. All the best until then.